Hello everybody, it's Mr. Wojo, and sorry I couldn't be there today, but we're going to continue our work on graphing quadratics. Remember, we are getting close to our test, which is this Friday, and so we're going to kind of do some review of some of the things we did a couple weeks ago and just kind of try to bring it back. So please make sure that you have a copy of the notes that say subnotes. We're going to go through one or two of these together. I'll give you guys a little bit of chance to work on some of these here while the video's on. Please make sure you grab one of our older calculators. I just want to remind you, you cannot use a graphing calculator on this Friday's test. And so let's go back to these TI-30s and make sure that we're good to go. So as long as you got a pencil, you got these sheets, you got a calculator, we should be set to go. So what we're going to look at now is graphing in standard form. And so we're going to look at graphing f of x equals 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. And so remember, these are the ones where you can tell the y-intercept right away because it's that last number right there. It's always the c value. So we can fill in our y-intercept at 0, 9 without having to do any work. And so that's always the case when we're graphing in standard form, that last number is the y-intercept. You can also come up here and place that point right there. To find the vertex and the x-intercept, you have to do a little bit more work. So just as a reminder, again, this is just review, but to find the vertex, you first have to find the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is always found by x equals negative b divided by 2a. And so that formula is over on the side board. It'll always be there. You can always take a look at it. And so if you want to solve a problem like this, just find the opposite of your b term. The b term is that second term, the term in front of the x. Opposite of that negative 12 is a positive 12. Divided by 2 times your a. It's always best if you can just multiply this in your head. A is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So this becomes 12 divided by 4, which is equal to 3. So now that we have the axis of symmetry at 3, we know then that our graph is going to be symmetrical across this line that goes through 3 right here, 0, 1, 2, 3, goes through 3 on the x-axis. So that's the line x equals 3. That's the line of symmetry that my parabola will go through. Well, I know that if my axis of symmetry is 3, my vertex must also be 3 over. And so I know that my vertex is 3 comma some point. To figure out how to get that other point, we're just going to plug that 3 back in everywhere I see an x. So instead of 2 times x squared, I'm going to do 2 times 3 squared. And so I'm going to grab my calculator, and I recommend you guys grabbing calcs too. And I'm going to do 2, and then everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put parentheses, and then whatever x is. In this case, x is 3. So 2 parentheses 3, and then I'm going to square it. Minus 12x, so minus 12. Again, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put parentheses in my x value, plus 9. And so I just typed in exactly what I saw up here in this f of x equation. Remember, f of x is just a nice way of saying y equals, so don't worry about that f of x. And so when I hit enter, I get negative 9. So my vertex is 3 over and 9 down. So now I can go to graph that. 3 over 9 down. That would be this point right here. That is my vertex. Now that I found my vertex, now I can find my x-intercepts. If this was factorable, which it doesn't look like it is, if it was factorable, or if it doesn't look like it is easily, then I could just factor to find my zeros or my x-intercepts. In this case, I might have to use the quadratic formula. So to find the x-intercept, I might have to do the quadratic formula. So if you could just switch this paper to the back side, there'll be plenty of room for us to kind of write that down. So my equation was y equals 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. Y equals 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. So in this case, the a value is 2. It's always the number in front of the x squared. B value is negative 12, and the C value is 9. And so quadratic formula, it's over on the sideboard, it's also on the front board. X equals opposite of B, so that's going to be a positive 12, plus or minus square root B squared. Now again, everywhere I see the B, I'm going to put it in parentheses. So B squared is negative 12 squared minus 4 times A times C. Again, you guys have gotten really good at this, so I'm kind of going quickly. All divided by 2 times A. A in this case is 2, so it's 2 times 2. So when you write out the quadratic formula, it should look like this. X equals 12 plus or minus square root negative 12 squared minus 4 times 2 times 9. All divided by 2 times 2. Now remember, you only do this inside part on your calculator. So when you grab your calc, you don't do the square root, you just do the inside part. Negative 12 squared minus 4 times 2 times 9. Hit enter. That gives you 72. That's what goes inside the square root. So when you go to rewrite this, you still have the 12. That's right there. You still have the plus minus. You still have the square root sign. You still have the division bar. 2 times 2 is 4, so I write 4 down here. But what goes inside here is the 72. That's what we just found by plugging this inside stuff in. And then it's just a matter of finishing this off on your calc. Remember, these are two different problems, 12 plus and 12 minus. So 12 plus the square root of 72. Don't forget then to hit enter and then hit divide by 4. So one of my answers is 5.12. The other is if I go back up, I can hit the up arrow and switch my plus sign to a minus sign. So 12 minus square root of 72, all divided by 4. I also get x equals 0.88 roughly. So those are my two. So remember that 5.12 and 0.88. So my x-intercepts are 5.12 comma 0, 5.12 over, and the other one was at 0.88. So that's right here, almost at 1. So as I go to put these zeros in, or x-intercepts, notice they're symmetrical. If they don't end up being symmetrical, the same distance from your axis of symmetry, then you know you made a mistake. Then it's just a matter of graphing it. So here is our vertex, that's our turnaround point. We have a y-intercept, we have an x-intercept. We're going down to our vertex, we're coming back up through our x-intercept. And if you want to do a symmetrical point on the other side, you can do that. And that's kind of how we work on those problems. And so that's just a quick review of kind of what we've done. I would like you guys to try one with the video on before we turn you guys loose. And so I'll just ask that the sub just pause the video here in a few seconds. You guys work on number 22, and then when you guys feel like you're ready, I'll do a fast version of this one, and that way you can see if you have any questions or not. So at this point, you guys try number 22, kind of think of it as a you try like we do in class, like I was just there. And the sub, if you could just pause the video, and when they're done with this problem, just turn it back on, and we'll kind of see how we're going. Alright, so hopefully you were able to get through it. So the y-intercept in this one is that last number, so hopefully you have your y-intercept at positive 4. The vertex, first you'd have to find the axis of symmetry. Opposite of b divided by 2a is going to give you a negative 2 for a vertex. So my vertex is going to be negative 2 over, and when you plug negative 2 into the calculator, you should have gotten 3 times negative 2 squared plus 12 times negative 2 plus 4. Should have got negative 8. So your vertex is at negative 2 comma negative 8. Negative 2 comma negative 8. Your axis of symmetry is also at that -2 line, so you can have your axis of symmetry drawn right here. Sorry about that. So you can have your axis of symmetry drawn right there. And your x-intercepts, if you were going to use the quadratic formula on this, you should have gotten -12 plus or minus square root. And on the inside of that would have been 12 squared minus 4 times a times c. You should have got on the inside 96. So -12 plus or minus square root of 96, all divided by 6. When you do that, -12 plus the square root of 96 divided by 6 is -0.37. So that's about right here. And you should have also gotten -21, don't forget to divide by 6, -3.63, which is about right here. Vertex is down there, and so when you go to graph it, it should have been real skinny, because we know, of course, that this is a stretch, and it's going up. So hopefully your graph looked like that. If so, you're probably good to go. I just have a few practice problems for you guys to do in class, so if you could get those done. After you get the practice problems done, I'm going to have you go on and do the quizzes the second time, the second version of that quizzes. It's going to be up all day, so you're going to be able to compete against not just students in your hour, but students from every hour. On the quizzes, when you get to it, please remember to enter in your first name and your last initial. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.